Welcome to The Chaos Antidote, a leadership podcast hosted by Jason E. Neal, author of Accidentally Aligned: How Leaders Create Value in Chaos. Through these episodes, we will be exploring real-world problems and applying solutions that reduce your chaos and help you to become accidentally aligned. Hello, everyone. This is Jason E. Neal. And thank you for joining me today on The Chaos Antidote. I am the author of the book, Accidentally Aligned: How Leaders Create Value in Chaos. Pick this book up. If you're on Amazon, we have this on Audible now. So if you're driving to and from the plant, or you're on the shop floor, or there's some place that's more convenient for you to listen to it, that is now an option for you. It's also available on Kindle, paperback, hard copy. Let's dig in today. So today I want to talk about something that I've been living for 25 years in manufacturing. And it's a topic that I wrote about in my book, Accidentally Aligned: How Leaders Create Value in Chaos. You know, when we talk about leadership and transformation, we love the idea of true north. And I talk about true north all the time. It's that star that guides captains out on the open sea, right? Stars above us. It's steady winds in the sail, holding a straight course to our destination. Is this beautiful picture. It's clean, it's predictable, right? And I've even gave this analogy as I teach True North, and this is how we're sailing. And there are reasons at different times that I would give people different analogies, but this is definitely one that I've used. But here's the thing that I've learned the hard way, and in my 25 years of doing this, right? The picture is almost never what real transformation feels like. I want to pause there just to let that sink in, because when I do give this analogy and it's like, hey, we're going to be on the open sea, we're sailing, we can see miles in every direction, and we just keep our eye on that star, and we can take this ship, and the currents may push and pull us, and the tides may come, some storms may happen, but we can get this thing there if we just keep sailing. From my experience, this is what I've seen in leading teams through change, right on the shop floor, right in the middle of the chaos. Coming into the middle of people's hardship and pain, this is what I have found. True North is usually a whole lot more like walking through a jungle with nothing but a compass and maybe a map in your hand, right? Looking at that map and then coming back and checking your compass. Let me explain what I mean. Let's say, for example, we kick off a big initiative, a lean transformation, new operating system, whatever you're calling it. We almost always start with a map and a compass. So we'll go into a conference room and we'll sit down and we'll plan, and people will come up with this beautiful map, and we'll pitch it to leadership, and leadership will pitch it to their leadership, and then everybody kind of agrees on it. And then we send our influencers out into the organization to go and make that vision happen, right? And it's called casting a vision. This is definitely step one of leading a transformation. But when we cast a vision with the assumption that the influencers are sailing an open sea, we really miss some stuff there. And as leaders, as we go out and try to deploy change, and we think, we're going to go out into this open sea, and we have this, this compass, and we have these stars, and the night sky will lead us and guide us. And if there's clouds one night, we'll readjust, and, we'll get back on track. We're really misleading ourselves, right? Because when we step outside, and we look at the terrain, here's what I found. It usually doesn't match the map. It usually doesn't. The decisions and the assumptions that were made behind closed doors with people that were far from the work usually have very little to do with what I see when I show up on the shop floor and start engaging with people at the Gemba. And when I start learning and getting this feedback, I'm like, wow, it's not an open sea at all. This is actually a jungle. This is chaos. And this is what I write a lot about in my book, because I've just seen it so many times. And I think there's this misperception, as we deploy leaders and even like really good leaders. I coach so many good leaders, and they're like, yeah, I just don't want to do this anymore. And when I ask why, it's many things, but a lot of times what I hear is there's just a misalignment between the influencers and the authority of the organization. The power of the organization is aimed in a certain direction. But there's a misalignment, because when the influencers of the organization go in to try to lead this change, and they report back to leadership or to the power arm of the organization, there's a misalignment. They're like, well, it shouldn't be that hard, or you seem disconnected from what we actually planned, or you're in a different place than we are. And this frustrates our leadership. And I coach so many people that are exiting organizations, and they're like, I'm just going to go do something else. I'm going to go farm cattle or something, or go into the medical field and get a nursing degree, or something. I'm just going to leave this profession, and I'm going to go do something else. And it really is a shame, because we didn't probably sell them a great product, and they carried this product around, and they're like, well, that doesn't work. Well, it does work. But it's a misalignment. It's a miscommunication of ideas. Usually when I start marching through this jungle, what I'll find out is that creek on the map, yeah, that was a canyon. It was like 6 stories deep. And when I was sent out, I didn't even have any climbing equipment or any training. And I probably never even climbed or traversed a canyon before. And I thought I was going to need maybe some rain boots to cross this little creek. And it turns out to be this raging river that's very, very dangerous, right? And what we thought was flat ground, right? Maybe it has thick undergrowth or roots or things that are going to hinder our path, right? But this is when the choice shows up. And this is what I see. I see good leaders, and they're ready for change, and they make decisions, and they do it, and they experience Gemba. But it's this misalignment with the power arm of the organization that is not present at the Gemba. It's not present at the place that the work is done. And when the people that are present where the work is being done report that information, it comes across as disconnected. And I hear this word disconnected so many times, and that's the reason I use it. It's not because it's mine. It's just I've heard it so many times in my career that person's just completely disconnected, or they live on another planet, or I don't know, they're telling me this, and there's no possible way that's the case. And here's what I found. A lot of good leaders just end up staring at the map and assuming the terrain is wrong. They're like, well, that's not really a canyon. It's a creek. Map says it's a creek, so it's a creek. Leadership says it's a creek, so we'll cross it like a creek. We'll go ahead and do that and see how that works out. Because when you fall 6 stories into that raging river, it's not going to be very fun, and you're probably going to be looking for something else to do. And that's what happens. That's what I see, right? We ignore it. What we want to do is we want to go to the Gemba. We want to hear them, the place where work is done. We want to go there and we want to hear people. We want to find out what work is actually happening. And then we want to let our compass guide us. Well, when I say compass, what do you mean by compass? We say true north, we can talk about a star, but look, when you're in the jungle, a lot of times you can't even see the sky. And that's how it is, right? If you don't have a compass that you're carrying with you, right, your goals, right, your leadership principles, the things that you believe in, right? If you don't have these things and they're not set in front of you, you're not going to know what to do. Well, what should my guiding principles be? I would recommend safety, quality, delivery, and cost, right? And in that order, if we don't have those true north principles set up, then you might do delivery first. You might say, well, the delivery is the most important thing, and you might shove all these people across that creek that's not a creek and it's a canyon, and then they're all laying down on the ground. The ones that survive are badly wounded, and right, so we violated safety, right, at the cost of delivery. And I see this all the time. It's so bizarre too, because when I talk about this topic, people are like, oh, that's not an important topic. Well, go look at your organizations, because I see it all the time. And it's actually a very important conversation, because when you think about things like the expense of retention and hiring, and how much it costs to find good employees, let alone when you find them, how much it costs to train them and to teach them. And then we invest all this money and skills, and then we just turn them over to somebody else who benefits from it, and we lose them, right? And then what are we doing? We're training them again. And it's a very expensive way to live life when we close our eyes to this and say, like, that's not a thing. So if you're hearing this today and you're like, I don't think that's a thing, well, you might want to take a second look at that, because you might be part of the problem, right? This might be something that you'd want to look at and say, with an open mind, could this be a thing in my organization? Could this be something that we're dealing with? Could this be something that we could do better with, right? And that's what humility looks like. When we're walking through this jungle, and there's times, right, and we're supposed to be going north, true north. Good leaders will go east and west from time to time. You come to that canyon, you're like, delivery is really important, or cost is really important. But safety was first. We said we were going to do that first. So rather than send people across this, I might walk east or west for 20 miles to go around this thing so that we can find a safe path for people to go, even though it's going to cost me a little more, even though it's going to take me a little bit longer to deliver. And we'll certainly try to make sure we can chuck some stuff across that ravine so that people can stay happy. But safety's first. We're going to make sure that our people are taken care of. And that's very normal. So when you're walking on this true north path, and that's where the sea analogy loses it, because in the sea, the only time I'm really going to move is if I see rocks or there's something beneath the water that is close to the boat, and then maybe I'll try to avoid that. But by and large, if you're in the open sea, you're not really going to encounter any of that, right? So if you're in a jungle, which is what I normally see, which is a far better analogy, this happens all the time. It's a hard sell sometimes for leadership where you're like, hey, I know we said we're going north, now we're going to go east for a little bit, and then we're going to go west. And in full transparency, when I transformed one of the largest engine lines on the planet for aerospace, we went south for a minute, right? We were at nine engines a week, and you'll find this story in my book. But we were at 9 engines a week, and I had a goal to go to 21, and we actually went to 6 for a while, right? Because we were making changes, people were protesting, and they were concerned and confused, and there was new processes and new standards, and people had to train. So we actually went backwards for a minute, and it was a long minute because we were already in a deficit when I took over the operation. So going backwards was really not that acceptable at the time, but backwards we went. Because why? Because our eyes at that point, my eyes, were on the future and not on these small predictable gains, like how many people can I throw across this canyon and get to live on the other side, which is what we were doing before. It was very much like, how do we build a good, safe bridge? How long will that take? And how can we make sure that that bridge is strong enough to hold everything we need to carry across it? And it's that safety minded that keeps us on our track, because that is our true north guiding principle when we can't see anything else, and when the chaos is around us, and when those things are in our way. We launch with good intentions. That's generally the case. I'll be honest with you. Like, there's a couple leaders that I've had in my career, maybe 4 or 5, and in 25 years, it's not a huge amount of leaders. And they were just bad leaders. Like, they were really bad. They didn't like people. They probably had no business being in leadership. I think they hated themselves at some point. I don't really know why, but they weren't great people. They didn't treat others well. They didn't treat themselves well. They had no respect for the process. But I really don't see that as being the normal. What I do see is I see a lot of decent leaders that are stuck in really bad systems. They get crushed and squeezed under pressure, and it brings bad things out of them. I think a lot of them have mentors that probably could be a little bit better. Maybe they're not the best, and that pressure is squeezing them as well, and they're mimicking behaviors, and they're growing, by their own leadership. But people get frustrated, and the process breaks. And like, what do we do with people when that happens? In these moments, the leaders who create the lasting value are the ones who don't panic. They double down on the map. They go to the gemba. They listen. They protect people's dignity when tempers are flaring, when things are hard. They use their compass, their core principles, their respect for work and the people that are doing it. They keep moving true north, even when the path looks like nothing that it looked like on the original map. This is where leadership shines. This is what my book, Accidentally Aligned, is all about. If you want to read more, you want to know about it, pick up my book, right? Because it's 280 pages. I can give you a good background here, but there's so much more. There's so much more into understanding these ideas. This title comes from real things that I did in my career, real mistakes that I made, right? These weren't, it wasn't something I went out and read and was like, oh, that's a neat theory, or it's a neat idea, or I like what this person said or that person said. I certainly read. I read a ton, right? I consume a lot of knowledge, but there was a time in my career when I had to realize, like, we got to stop lean policing. We got to stop going around and writing tickets because people are resisting us, right? They're understanding that we're a threat, because safety is not first. It's everything else that's first, and we're damaging safety, and people are saying, hey, that's threatening to me. That's threatening to my existence. So we've got to stop that, right? And I remember one transformation where we had this beautiful future state map. and we wrote it out. We did all the calculations. Everyone in leadership loved it. And when I actually got there, one of the operators showed me something that I had completely missed. There was an issue, right? We had built the line, and I think I might have shared this before, but it's a really good story. We had built this line to a 4-minute tack time, and it was running for the first time. We had actually implemented pull on this line in aerospace, and it was working really well. The customer was happy. And I had done a lot of conference room Kaizen, which is what I'll call it. We had went and a lot of, not Kaizen the event, but Kaizen the change for the better, right? Continuous improvement. And I went to what I considered the Gemba and talked to some engineers and said, hey, this is what we have. Is this? And they're like, oh yeah, it makes sense. And when I went to the operator's like, yeah, you're assuming that this is 4 minutes of manual time and then additional time is automatic time. But actually on the print, it says even in the automatic time, I have to sit here and watch the process. And that was huge because we had now violated our 4-minute tack time. Because why? Because I didn't take time to go to the Gemba. I didn't take time to understand the work. Now what could I have done, right? I had a great deal of pressure on me. The board of directors was watching this personally because they wanted to see how our lean deployment was going to take hand. The CEO was watching it. So there was an immense amount of pressure to make this look right. And I could have in that moment been like, you know what? No, you're going to do the automatic time and you're going to do the manual time, and on the automatic time, you're going to go over here and do this operation. But that would have violated our safety. It would have violated our quality for what? For delivery. So now what we're doing is we would have been pushing for a delivery-based culture. But I knew that, yes, it's important. The board wants this deployed. The CEO wants this deployed. It's very important to the company and to our investors. But here's the thing. If I make that decision now, we're going to set the precedence for the culture that we're a delivery-based culture. And we've already told them that we're not going to do that. We're going to follow this new set of True North metrics. So this is where leadership's hard. This is where it's hard, right? You have to make real decisions. You have to adjust your sails. You have to go in a different direction sometimes. So I went east that day, and I said, we've got to figure this out now. And we ended up needing another machine because we didn't have enough capacity and we didn't have the technology for this operation. It was a very new operation, and the technology just wasn't there. And the line was already built. Machines were placed. They were right. So moving this took time. But we did push that deployment back, and we got what we needed, and we built that to a 4-minute tact. Now that was a sustainable tact, right? That was a 4-minute sustainable tact. And what we had now with that is the culture that people knew. These people do what they say. They're not going around and selling us ideas that they don't live by. This is where authenticity hits, right? I talk about this all the time. Authenticity is really important. People will watch you all the time as a leader, and they'll say, does that leader say what they say that they believe in? Do they do those things? And that's a really important question that you need to ask yourself. When you say that this is True North, or you say that this is what we're going after, are you going after it? That is so important, because that is the equity that you will cash in when you need to make a withdrawal. That is the equity. If you do what you say you're going to do, and you have an authentic voice and you stand behind it and you back your people and you say, this is the path, and people can get aligned to that because you're focusing their efforts on it. When you go to cash that in and you say, I need you now, right? I need your help. They will hear you. And if you don't, if you're doing something else, they're a whole lot less likely to hear you unless you're powerful and they're afraid of you. And even with that, it's not going to last very long. They'll just comply with you until there's not a reason to anymore, and you'll lose them. And I've seen that happen so many times. But why do I share this? Why do I share this with you? Because I don't want people to make the same mistakes that I made. I don't want people to hurt the way that I've hurt. And I don't want people to hurt other people. Right? We have people that are trying to build their lives and their futures, and why can't we make that better for them? Right? Why can't we do that? I think it's a very reasonable thing to do. So let me ask you something right now, because I know a lot of you are in the middle of this right now. Where are you right now in your own organization? Where are you right now? And as I talk about this and share these ideas and you hear this, where are you? Where are you? Not where is someone else? Not where is my leadership, not where are my employees. And I see that a lot when I share these kind of stories. People will say, well, leaders aren't the problem or employees aren't the problem. No, no, collectively, probably not. It's probably each of us, right? So let's just keep the message here and not defend who or who isn't the problem, right? Just ask yourself, where am I at in my organization? That's a wonderful question to start, right? Are you still in the open sea version of the plan? Is that where we are, or have we hit the jungle yet? These are good questions, and I pause here because I want you to think about them. Have you already discovered that the map was incomplete? If so, are you willing to make reality fit the map? Or are you willing to let the compass and the Gemba guide you, even if it means going east for a while? And what would that look like? If you did that, what things might happen to you, right? Because this is a thermometer now of the safety and the presence of psychological safety in your organization. Because here's what I've learned the hard way. True, lasting transformation is rarely calm sailing. And if it's on the sea at all, it's usually a hurricane. That's usually what it looks like. The leaders who win aren't the ones that have the prettiest plans. They're the ones who keep their compass in their hand, their boots on the ground at the Gemba, their teams moving forward, even when the path looks like something that no one expected. I'm Jason E. Neal. Pick up a copy of my book, Accidentally Aligned. Listen, I do this. I don't make money from this. This is something I do completely on the side of my normal job. I do this to help people. Like and subscribe. That encourages me. When I see that, that's very helpful to me. So if you get a chance, hit the subscribe button. And let's make tomorrow better than today. Thank you very much.